The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Page is a rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craftwork that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God, stepping in score, Sunya Zala, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, this show is about my element of hip-hop, what I like to call the writer of art on art and science on music. The only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over a quarter century, helped pioneer. That was a lot of shit to say.
Talk your talk.
And it was after that great intro by my brother Kevlar 7, Remembered Imperfection. I love you, Kevlar. That track, he called it I Call My Brother Son. He gave it to me for when I have a show. And I have a show now. You know what I mean? And peace to Bronze, man. He got like a new artist coming out. I'm excited to hear it. I got my books out. The new one is The Reel of 2020. It is the only book of its type. It is a 70-page analysis of the best artists and musicians in hip-hop music today of the last year, bracketed in a revolutionary new system of ciphers that categorize the entire musical experience and the entire universe that we are engaging in. So it isn't my favorite records. It isn't just my, these are the hot records that'll play and stuff. I'm not merging little babies with little kids and legends and mixing it all into some ugly, gross soup. I'm putting the best quality stuff and I'm bracketing them so that way you can get the styles, the many styles that overlap and blend with each other. So there'll be people that belong to more categories than others. There'll be people that are solo in their own category, the way I see it and the way that I show it. But the point is that some type of work where you could see all that you missed, everything that's out there. So that way you could have the joy of making decisions or having a better way of making a decision. You know what I mean? That's what that book, it's on PDF though. I have some new books that I'm gonna come out with that are even greater than that, but these are the ones out now. So cash out, get your Cash App and cash out. The Filtered Reel, Essays from the Invisible Renaissance is the paperback. This is what details the origins of what I call the Invisible Renaissance. Technically, I say it starts from 2010s on. All the artists that made it what it is, focusing on specific years for certain artists, but really giving a detail of the variety, the depth, and why I call it that. You know what I mean? I think this is since 2010, this is the most qualitative era that we have matched with quantity. The quantity is massive and the quality is really there. Like it's overloaded and it's a wonderful overload. So, before I continue, Classic Storm Radio, we're going to be back. Me and DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio. We're going to be back with a new episode soon. Technical difficulties. But our last episode with Beneficence and Confidence is still up, though, and you still need to listen to it. Beneficence has a great memoir out that if you're an independent artist or you're interested in how this music is made, somebody that was around all of this whole time. It's a great read. It's a great read, great insights and stuff. And the new album, Stellar Mind, is boom bap in all its purity. And I don't say that with some dismissive way of saying it, like people say. I use the word boom bap positively. You know what I mean? It's not the nigger word like the way people talk about in some Twitter. The last show we had, though, salute to K Burns. I just want to give a shout out to K Burns. Great brother, seasoned MC, young MC. Great combination to have. And we went through a lot of his works, though, and he's got so much more that he's coming out with, though. And if you talk about Brooklyn, you talk about that rugged stuff, it don't matter where he is now, though. He's still living and breathing Brooklyn. Speaking of Brooklyn, though, it's funny. I went to Skank's new LP, Most, the Minister of Severe Torture album release party and his Born Day party. And I had to go. And let me tell you why I had to go, because my verse, I was talking about running through the streets and the train transfers to Nostrand. So I was like, man, I gotta go, you know? But what happened was I lived out my verse. The train didn't want to go to Sterling, the 5 train, and I had to take the 3 to Kingston, and I hate taking buses. I said, let me take in Brooklyn, because I haven't done it in a while. So here I am walking through like, oh man, how many pigs are in Crown Heights? You know what I mean? And so I was nervous though. I'm more nervous about the pigs than I am about like any kind of rogue hustlers out there. You know what I mean? And but I made it. I made it to Nostrand Ave. You know what I mean? that was my journey. I had to live out the damn verse. You know what I mean? See, that's what I get. I don't like this whole rapper thing. You know what I mean? I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. You know, you end up living out the lyrics though. It's very creepy. But I got to know, it was great. All the brothers there, Bankai fam, though, they ooze Brooklyn. Like, they just spilled Brooklyn out of their whole thing. And, you know, I'm out in Staten Island living, so now I see the contrast of the place I grew up in, you know, the Brooklyn I grew up in, you know what I mean? And the way they live out Nostrand and the way they get down out there, it still has that love, you know what I mean? Love. So it's wonderful. Imagine Nostrand, but without the violence, you know what I mean? That was that show. It was great. And I was so honored to be on that album, because he had a lot of people on that album and wanted me on it too, so it was great. Peace to DJ Emsky too, of Good People though, because they released the album and he was on the album on the song with me, and he was great too. Then the next day I decided to do some more rapper shit, because Rashid Chappelle invites me to his video shoot, and it was great. I wasn't that nervous about it though, because, you know, once I heard the song and I was okay, the song was really good, you know, no worries about that. But I got to meet Buck Wild in the physical, because we only did the phone interview. My man Jay Cyanide, boy, what a character. Like, he really is that piece in real life, you know what I mean? Like, he's a great brother. Bronx Brothers, the Boricuas, Spanish Rand, Blue Azul. I got to, you know, and as a Boricua, to finally meet Sucio Smash, you know what I mean? And just tell him thank you for everything you've done in hip-hop. It was a real nice moment for me, you know what I mean? Doing things about the same time. I was there before him, but we're all students of Babito, you know what I mean? So, you know, I got to say peace to Babito and thank him, but he's one of the great direct disciples of Babito, and just had to salute that man right there, you know what I mean? Engaging personality too, you know what I mean? And then on Sunday, I had the best day, because I got to go into an exhibit of my daughter's best friend, Van Gogh Crafts. That's VANGOGH crafts.com. They had an exhibit of all her art, her boyfriend's great photography, and it was nice to help out, do little I could, and then just, you know, watch my daughter do that business, you know what I mean? Handle that business, you know? And a proud father, you know what I mean? So I'm sorry about the picture. You look beautiful in it. But peace to Van Gogh Crafts. If you want some new clothes, like, they got all types of gear and stuff like that from a young designer that's making, you know, really dynamic designs. So go check that out. And last but almost last but not least, but happy born day to the god S.STREET, which, you know, we have show 81. We was building with the god. But last but not least, that segues right into that, because now Allah C. King, right, the god S.STREET, is this weekend, June 12th and 13th, is the Show and Prove. You know what I mean? The Nation of Gods and Earth Show and Prove. So it's as it should be, and always is child-centered. You know what I mean? There's food, games, music for the kids, a young builders science fair, all of this kind of stuff. 22 points, team youth program. Celebrating a lot of things we couldn't celebrate, like Earth Appreciation Day and all that kind of stuff. So we're doing all that all in one thing. So Allah School of Mecca, 2122 7th Avenue. That's 126th Street. Take the D to ABCD, anything to 125th. You know what I mean? And we're out there. We'll be out there all day, June 12th and 13th. You know what I mean? And the Show and Prove is on the 13th. So brothers and sisters that got knowledge come from all over the globe, you know, on that day. So I'll be there for a while. You know what I mean? I'll be there. You know? And so now I have a guest that is very special to me because of what she exudes and also what she challenges me to talk about. You know what I mean? As an MC, the way that I like an MC to sound, the way their sonics are, the choice of some musical selections, their intensity, and their thematic persona. The themes, the ideas, and the ethos and principles that they project, this artist is the ideal for me. And I think more than almost anyone that I speak to, I could say is her reality is necessary in hip-hop music. You know what I mean? And slowly but surely, though, her music is making her an essential MC, you know? Our guest is Nejma Nefertiti. Peace.
Peace, peace. I'm so honored to be here, for real. That was a beautiful introduction, by the way.
Oh, no, yeah. After I did all that talking,
you
yeah.
definitely a wordsmith, man.
Oh, thank you. You know, the first thing that I would like to say, because I think that to even speak about who you are, is to say one of the things that I really love about, you know, in my journey in hip hop, and I had this conversation with Spanish Ran and Blue Azul, right? They're both Puerto Rican, they MC. And, you know, Blue told me something that was very interesting. She said, we don't have to do what they did back then, like pun and all, Joe. We don't have to tell everybody every other verse that we're Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? We don't have to do that anymore. If they know, they'll know, and things like that. You know what I mean? And I found that refreshing because I spent a lot of my years going through all these magazines, having to fight for what we did in the culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To fight for ourselves. And I can name countless artists from Fat Joe down to, you know, Brothers in the Arsonist and all of them that were Puerto Rican, and because they didn't fit the African-American mold or couldn't be fit into it, they had to go do something else. You know, even Fat Joe, and this is from Fat Joe himself, even he was told to do freestyle. Can you imagine him doing freestyle music? You know, Louder Than Love. You know what I mean? The Fat Joe doing a twist. You know what I mean? But the way that I chose to do that and express that was about expressing the reality that it wasn't just about what I was saying that Puerto Ricans did something. It was about that this music and culture was centered around a larger black diaspora than any other genre that it was ever made. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So we have all these great genres that are foundational, like jazz, like blues, right? That are crucial to certain islands like salsa or reggae. But none of them are like hip hop in that they are actually the entire black diaspora was fitting into that. And your music is all of that. You know what I mean? You know, I'd like to go into your background. You know, you let us know, let the listeners know what your background is yourself. You know, I could say it, but I would like you to say it. And also how that fits the whole black diaspora, because some people don't understand how that fits in. You know?
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you for asking that. You know, and that's a question I get often because I could look like many different things, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, and I am from many lands, you know, predominantly from my father's side, Iranian, Turkish, North African. And when I say North African, I mean what people call the Middle East, which is North Africa. You know, people don't want to say it's Africa. It's Africa. You know what I mean? It's in the north. You know what I'm saying? Egypt, Yemen, Palestine. I got all that DNA, and my mother, indigenous American. A lot of that information, you know what I mean, was hard for me to find. I know Seminole, Lakota. I don't know the intricacies of it, obviously, for many reasons, because, you know, we were displaced and all that. I'm not, you know, I didn't grow up on the res you know, neither did she. You know, we didn't speak the language. But, you know, it's still power to know, you know what I'm saying, that is something that I could, you know, go on a journey on, you know what I'm saying, and try to connect with. And, you know, to know that I'm, like, indigenous to this land is interesting to me too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, you know, it's like when you talk about where I'm from, you know, all those cultures and everything have so many different musics, you know, and it relates to like how I grew up, and like I was telling you before, living with different families, you know, from people all over, you know what I'm saying, and just hearing different music and growing up in hip hop culture, but also around so many different ethnicities and you know, just way of life, you know what I mean? And it just, yeah, that definitely shaped, you know, my style.
Because when you grow up around and seeing other overt different ethnicities and cultures, it makes more sense how they would fuse into hip hop.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people only understand it through the sample.
Right.
Whereas for us, though,
we all lived in the hood.
Right,
We all lived in the hood. Like, so
Right.
we all were growing up in hip hop, and that's the whole, like, connective thing, because it's like we were all there, and it's like, I grew up, I went to predominantly black schools, Jersey and Brooklyn. I went to school in Jersey and Brooklyn. I moved around a lot, you know what I mean? But I grew up, with like Arabian people and like, Caribbean people and black people and, people from South America, Boricua, Dominicanas, like, you know what I mean? Like people, and those people like took me in too at times, because just the way life was, I was a foster kid for a while, you know what I mean? And like, my mother struggled and everything, but yeah, it's just crazy how all that connected. And I think, it just taught me so much, for real. Like, and that's why I don't have a tunnel vision. You know what I mean? I'm very like, I have all these peripherals, like kind of just, talking to me. Like, I'm like, okay, I could do hip hop just like this, but there's a lot of other things that influence me that also influence, the way hip hop evolved. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people did that. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll probably bring this up later because of a certain individual that you've worked with, and but a lot of the MCs that we could say have a more righteous kick to them, more ideas about revolutionary minded, they're not old. They have become more tunnel, horse blinded to, let's say, ADOS or things like that are more like strict on what we're saying certain things are. You know what I mean? And that it becomes refreshing contrast the way you speak about the black diaspora on so many songs and give it really a kind of unity and a kind of an expression that, listen, these problems are going all over though. Different levels, but all the levels need to be spoken about.
Right, right. And that's so dope that you're bringing that up, because nobody really does. Like, you're the first person that ever brought that up to me. Like, really. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, but I knew you was going to do your homework, and that's why I wanted to do this, because, it's all about, like, I'm never a person that's just content where I'm at. You know what I mean? I like to push the boundaries, of artistry, of my life, of my thoughts, what I'm saying, of knowledge. It's like things can change your mind, man, when you figure things out. That's really important. So,
well, let me transition to that too, because a lot of this, to me, for listeners to understand the greatness of Nejma and Nefertiti, is to understand the depth of where you're coming from. And a lot of it, though, is the activism. You know what I mean? So it's not like an artist that... There are a lot of sincere and talented artists that are dreaming of a better life, and that's what they rhyme about.
Right.
But there are others that are actually also dreaming of that, of course, right? We all do.
Right.
But they're engaged in doing things to try to push something to that, and they're more active. And your work, I don't want to say old school. It's just that so many people don't live it out like that. But they're coming from a real activist, a real revolutionary mindset of activities, real action out there on the street, then into the thing, and it changes the way that you make music, because I hear all these things that you're talking about, and I'm like, yeah, she really was. Give me a little breakdown of some of the experience, and like, with all these regular hardships, what makes someone like you say, listen, I could just express myself through hip hop, and that's good enough? Because I've heard that off air from people.
Right.
I don't have time to be all this activist, but I'll just do it in a song and stuff.
Right.
But here you are, you're doing different activist functions, you're doing different fundraisers, you're in a lot of mixes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Well, of course, it's powerful in a song and stuff like that. I've just learned that action is everything, because people are always saying, like, words are one thing and like action is another. It's like talk is cheap, action is something else, right? I'm just a person of action. If I could do something, I wanted to take it further, specifically because of the things I've gone through in life. It taught me to care about everybody, like whether it's your struggle or not. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I think, a lot of the things we kind of lack that, and I think a lot of people were talking about it, for this pandemic. Oh, now, we have time to think about it and stuff, but we shouldn't have to have something, detrimental, happen to care about someone's struggle in Africa, in Chile, in Palestine. It doesn't matter that we don't live there or if we don't even have people there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something that, and my mother was like that too. It's really important that I bring this up because this is what really set the precedence for what you're talking about. Because before that, I didn't know even how to do that, how to change the world, or even just everything counts. It's like, even for me, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I could make a big change in a lot of things, and I'm like, sometimes we ask ourselves, oh, does this even matter? Does this affect anything? Am I doing anything? I've gone through those thoughts before, but I've come to realize that everything matters. You know what I'm saying? And that you don't know who sometimes that you're even affecting. Sometimes I'll get messages, it's the little things. And people will be like, you got me through. I was feeling that, oh, I realized you lost your mother. I just lost mine. I got through that, and to me, that's revolutionary. Like when you're touching the hearts and souls of people and inspiring them, to be who they are, to take their pain and become an alchemist with it, make something with it. That's what I started to do. So I said, what am I going to do with all this? And I thought about my mother too. And it's interesting because it happened more so when I didn't have her anymore, which is kind of sad. Right. And it's like, that's how it is. You know what I mean? It's like, we always wish we would have seen the person more or, this and that. But things really became like very clear to me, and maybe it's like her spirit, speaking to me or something like that. But, she was always a person that struggled and never gave up. I mean, I couldn't even believe some of the stuff, you know what I mean? And like, she was in and out of prison, struggled with addiction, but was a person that never stopped trying, after so many failures. Like, you know what I mean? Right. And to me, that's a win, you know what I'm saying? And so like, my whole mind frame changed when I did time. You know what I mean? I was attacked by this dude. It was a whole, scandal and shit. You know what I mean? It was, not long after 9/11. You know what I mean? And, basically, long story short, he groped me. I was probably like 19 years old. And I, put a box cutter up to his neck. Didn't hurt him or nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, it could have went differently, I guess. But, honestly, I don't really regret it because it's like, you shouldn't be touching on people, man. Don't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's my whole mind frame on it. But, they really made an example of me. A young lady who grew up in poverty, on welfare and all this shit. The whole story of living in the hood. Sure. It's not new, you know what I'm saying? But, also like my father never had him. He was deported to Iran. That was kind of like brought up. It was crazy, the stuff they were bringing up in the courtroom and how they just kind of like, they did me dirty. They Jim Crow'd me and I had no real knowledge of how to, to protect myself. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I didn't have a real lawyer or nothing like that. And, when I went in, I already had these like legendary stories of, the great Assata Shakur who was liberated from the same prison my mother went in and out of. And the same one that I ended up going to. And, she's the one who changed the rules there and made it like, harder for everybody. And I'm not mad at that, you know what I mean? Right. But it changed because of that. They really barbed wired everything up after that. They were like, oh, hell no. You know what I'm saying? So, I read her biography, which we weren't allowed to have while I was in the inside. I actually did some time in solitary. It's ironic
reading that biography.
It is. Yes, yeah. In there where she escaped. We weren't allowed to have it. People get in things all the time and stuff. But, there was a waiting list and stuff, this underground waiting list. And, like, somebody ratted me out because they went right to where I had the book taped up. You know what I mean? And, like, I read it in, like, one day. I was waiting to pass it on. Somebody told on me. I did time for that. In solitary confinement. But you know what? When I read that, it really opened my mind. It revolutionized my mind. And it showed me that the life that I had been through and the injustices in the world are connected. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, this is connected. Like, and I was like, oh, snap. I can see the school to prison pipeline. I can see this stuff now, how it happened. It's just like, and talking to the old heads, like just people breaking things down. You know what I mean? So, it made me want to fight. It made me want to fight for people through my art. You know what I'm saying? Like, it made me want to fight for myself. Like, because I was done wrong. You know what I mean? And I knew that many people were and are being done wrong. And, to me, it became like this kind of thing. Like, okay, now that I know I'm accountable, and I'm big on that. If I know I'm accountable, I can't just be like, oh, whatever, let me just, yeah, okay. It's like I did 5 years. Like, that was a lot of time to think, for me. I mean, we know people do like 40 and crazy amount of years and come out and their spirit is like so alive and beautiful. Sometimes I meet them and I'm like, wow, man, how do you do it?
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did this 5, but it was a substantial, an important chunk of my life from 19 to 24. It was a really crucial part of my life. So I would say that once I came home, when I was about 24, trying to get my life together and everything, I had a more powerful idea of what to do with my work. You know what I mean? It's a lot of Amber Alerts going on, man.
Indeed. Terrible.
It's crazy. But yeah, I had a different idea about, what to do with my work, like how I could take what I'm talking about in my music, and take it to the streets, take it to the neighborhoods, work with the youth, talk about hip hop culture, keep it alive, be a person who, belongs in this culture, who grew up in it, who respects it, to keep it alive with the younger generations and with the elders, and kind of create that intersectionality, you know what I mean? And even just traveling abroad and seeing how hip hop, is so prevalent there, and the love they showed me, and just, the things they were fighting for, how we connected, the struggles. Like, hip hop connects everybody, but it also connects all struggles. If you're open-minded, to that, and you're not like, okay, well, I'm gonna just, and I'm not saying, look, there's nothing wrong. I don't knock anybody with whatever they do, but I'm compelled to do something. You know what I mean? And like, I don't think I do enough sometimes. Like, I'm like, I be waking up thinking about stuff going on in the world. Like, I'm like, like we were just saying, the Amber Alert. I can't even go into that. Like, the trafficking, the children, just
right.
I'm telling you, man, like, it gets me hype. You know what I mean? And we have conversations, with people about it, and it's just like, but what do we do? You know what I'm saying? So my thing is like, yeah, be there for young people. You know what I'm saying? Educate about hip hop culture, talk about, my struggles, so that they can understand where I come from. They can relate to you. I usually kind of like show them who I am, show them a little of what I do, and they open right up. You know what I mean? Their minds open. They become like more comfortable, and, just teaching expression. What can you do with that pain? You know what I'm saying? Even, the growing food thing and stuff like that is so healing, man. Touching the earth, cultivating plants, the plants that you're gonna eat later, that is like fresh,
living food.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So like, it's a praxis in my mind. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that answer. Let's go into something probably even more controversial. Is the idea of being a female MC, and then some of the things that go along with that. When I cover the female MC, this is something that the female MC, even the ones that I know, they'll say they don't like this, but I don't get hell from them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I've earned I don't say privilege, an allowance, because I'm giving an asterisk to it. But when let's say in my book, The Reel of 2020, I make a separate bracket for female MCs, even though a lot of those MCs, if you understand the brackets, they bracket into other categories as well, just like any male MC. Right. But to me, the female MC is special. They're special because of the way they sound. They're special because in the history, not hip-hop only, but in the history of recorded music, the woman has not been in there. Get any kind of music, though, and collect your females. You're probably going to get a whole bunch of females only in soul music. You're not going to get lots of females in salsa. You're not going to, and trust me, women can sing salsa.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not just my favorite, La India.
Oh,
but,
man, I love La India.
Yeah. But the thing is, right, their ideas, their reality has been underrepresented. And that's putting it very mild.
Right.
You know what I mean? But also, too, I always liken it, and I don't know if I'm helping here, because I end up using a sports metaphor, and that goes against the cliche of females not knowing anything about sports. But it works well because I liken the female MC to a left-handed pitcher. You know what I mean? There's not that many of them, so they become more valuable as well. And they can do things that no one else can really do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they become more, if they're great, they're more devastating than most men. You know what I mean? That's
Indeed, yeah.
The lefty pitcher is like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I liken it to some of the skills, like, and sometimes people that listen have a male-centered view of that. So they'll dismiss, let's say, a Lauryn Hill, right? It goes, oh, but she sings most of the time. But emceeing is master of ceremony.
Thank
and
you
you
for
would
saying
use
that.
all of your skilled techniques.
Right.
Shit, if I could sing, though, I'd be singing them
Right.
them
Me
songs
too.
that they gave me.
I would do some singing.
You know?
That's not really, you know.
Right. The
yeah.
only problem is I only sound like Donny Hathaway to myself. It feels like Donny Hathaway, but it doesn't record that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But tell me about, you know, I don't know if taking on all these responsibilities sincerely, genuinely, also puts that pressure where you feel like you have to speak about being a female MC as well. Whereas a lot of other female MCs that are good, they just don't want to talk about it. Sometimes it's either or. I understand both. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah,
how do you see that?
So I would say, like, when I was first kind of starting out recording and doing all this stuff, I did feel like, okay, I need to represent this, because I felt like, you know, where are we, you know? And so it's like, well, I'm going to say this, but, you know, the truth is like, there's no denying it. When you hear my voice, when you see me, you know I'm a woman, I'm an MC. I mean, like, it is what it is, right? But, like, yeah, like you said, we got different struggles. We got other things to talk about. I can't talk about and relate to everything, you know, that the brothers, you know, rap about and stuff. I can enjoy it and feel it, and it's inspiring. But, yeah, I mean, we have other things to talk about. And, you know, it's always like, that whole thing, there's no solidarity ever, you know what I mean? That's why I always try to connect, you know, with other, you know, women MCs and stuff. And then there's that whole thing where, like, you know, oh, you know, don't call me a female MC. Now, I don't really, like, prefer that, you know what I mean? But I'm not like, you can't say it or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's like, oh, you know, she a dope female MC, that's cool. But, like, I'm not like, oh, you know, why, you know, we don't say, like, male MC and shit. Like, we just say MC or whatever. But I can see, too, with your point of why it's done like that, because we are underrepresented. Like, you know what I'm saying? And underrated a lot of the times.
Right. And definitely don't discount that. I think that 95% of the time people are saying it, though, disingenuously and, you know, condescendingly. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's the problem.
Like, you know,
it's
hey,
like, oh,
you know,
female MC, so it's a lower status.
A lower bar we put, you know, just so they
Right.
could, you know, like,
Right.
you know,
it's like, okay, let that be known. You know, we'll let everybody know that this is what's coming up next, so that you can get ready. Because, you know,
to me, MCing is not like sports. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna get it's not stronger man versus weaker female. You know, and that kind of thing where we need a different, you know, different levels of engagement and stuff. You know, it's the same expectations.
Right. And like, exactly, like, it's hip hop, it's being an MC. And, you know, it's like, you know, and it does go farther when you're an MC. Like, you know, MC doesn't mean, an MC can control a crowd and not even be rapping. I mean, that's the point. You could host, that's an MC. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but in hip hop, the MC, you know, we represent, you know, lyrics and thought-provoking, you know, work and, you know, that, like, raw kind of hip hop power that, you know, that comes through, you know, that fire, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, like, a lot of the time, you know, also it's like, you know, we don't accept a lot of the females that are rapping or whatever. Like, it's, you know, listen, everybody will be like, oh, there's not many, but, like, there's a lot of them. Like, and I personally know that, because it's like, you know, I began to make a playlist of all the women MCs and stuff like that. And I found people, too, that I didn't know about. I was like, damn, and became so surprised, like, wow, man, there's a lot of really dope women doing their damn thing.
Absolutely. And that's why, like, when I say I try to cover the whole universe, it's because we might have, like, we have perceptions, but they're not necessarily true. You know, when you start to list all the MCs and stuff like, oh, there's not that many of this, and then, oh, there's a lot of those.
Right.
Not that many Puerto Ricans in there. Then there's a whole bunch. Now it's too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
And it's crazy. You know, and for me, obviously, my standard though is to be a great MC,
Yes.
regardless not only to your gender, but also to the time that you're rapping.
Right.
You know, and that's why I asked you on the show, because I consider you able to hang on any era, anytime. And this is
Right.
this is your time though now. You know
I
what
love
mean?
that challenge too. I really do. And I do feel like it's like now or never. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is the time, and it's a beautiful time. Because I have time now to create. I have a different kind of lifestyle than I did before, man. Like, you know what I mean? A more you know, I can pay my rent. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, going through all the kind of the traumas of life and stuff, and finding out who you are. To me, feeling good within yourself was the biggest thing that allowed me to just start creating and just, like, I love to say this, just be authentic to yourself. Like, you know, you know, and, you know, of course, like, we'll be like, oh, and, you know, they'll kind of put certain MCs on a platform or whatever. But yeah, regardless, I don't care who it is. Dope is dope. That's what I say too. Dope is dope. If you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're a child and you're spitting something and it's like, you know, if you got that quality and you got that fire and that power, it's dope. It doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? You know, and that's the thing. That's the thing. So, you know, I don't mind people saying female MC, because I'm a woman, I'm a female, yeah, you know, and if that's what's needed to kind of, you know, put that idea in people's minds, like, yes, you're listening to a woman right now, you know, and they're usually like, I didn't expect that, you know what I mean? And that's cool. You know, I'm not, look, whatever transforms people, I'm with it. You know what I mean? Whatever opens the
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, let me take that segue to breach into a more controversial subject, the one that we spoke about off air.
Right.
You know, one of the things I love about your music is the femininity that you have. You know what I mean? And you also challenge, though, how I see femininity and how I you know, how it is expressed and that it can be expressed, because I love the aspect of the mothering nature that you respect on record. You know what I'm saying? I love the female unity that I see, because it comes off sincere and not just like, you know, hey, I'm just trying to like that's my niche. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, you know, because it could be for a lot of females. You know what I mean? But you know, as we noted, right, I listen to everything an artist puts out. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know you do your homework now.
And so I know that on some songs, though, as far as your sexuality, you have shown you've had queer lyrics.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that has been the preference that I've heard in your lyrics and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm using that also as a springboard to share something with the listener, because I have said this and it breaches the things that I don't know or deal with.
Right.
Right? Whether I agree with a lifestyle or not, right? I'm going to say this. A majority of the things that rappers talk about, and we're not talking about whack rappers, okay? Because then they're in a boat where everything, their entire catalog is in the garbage for me.
Right.
But most MCs, I would say honestly, 99% of MCs I don't always relate to, because no one lives a life the way I've lived it. Really, nobody has lived the life that I've lived.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At the same time, about 80% of rappers do things lifestyle-wise, whether it's drugs, whether it's selling drugs, whether it's criminality of some sort, that I don't advocate at all.
Right.
Like, in other words, they know that I don't advocate doing it even if you were broke.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So there's certain, you know, and I can do that because I was as poor as anyone else, though.
Right,
like
exactly.
I was at the poverty level where it was a good idea to sell drugs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was fit and tough enough, you know what I mean? But not heartless enough to do it.
Good point. Yeah.
So when people ask about that and they say, listen, Sunyas, you know, you got an MC here that's, you know, she's not dealing with the life that we deal with. I'm a 5%er. The 5% nation of gods and earths. What we advocate is on the flag, the black family. Right. You know what I mean? And the focal point is not that giant 7, which represents supreme mathematics, the way that we speak and express ourselves, the nature of the law and order of the universe. What I say is the what and how does the original man and woman do. It isn't the sun, which represents the man. It isn't the moon, which represents the woman. It's the actual star that represents the child, the babies, the best part.
The best part, right.
And what I have seen in your music, though, is a natural, sincere femininity. I have found, and I have to admit, a very natural, sincere sexuality. But what I also love, though, is that your mentality is also about the children, the best way, and as expressed by what we were just talking about. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that, hey, I'm cool with her, so it's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm saying that many things I don't agree with. You know what I'm saying? But what I do agree with, and hey, look, Sunias, I'm always on time, though. Just for Pride Month, right?
Right.
Some shit, right?
Right.
But my thing is this, right? Is that we are in the most commercial time, though, that we've ever been in. And I'm saying that everything could be abused immediately. If you compare jazz to hip hop, jazz took about 30 years to be exploited properly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whites couldn't even play music well until they got their Benny Goodmans and their Kings of Swing. Until then, it took a long time. Hip hop got exploited near immediately. If you compare other genres, salsa, reggae, it took a while. They had to learn how to figure out how to exploit it.
Right.
Sexuality is exploited as well. You know what I mean? And the choice of a person's sexuality so intertwined with the knowledge of themselves. In other words, an awareness of their reality of who they are, who they intend to be, what they want to be, how they want to be as a person, their ethos and their principles is also exploited. You know what I mean? And I find in Nejma Nefertiti's music that it's not being exploited, though. It's naturally expressed. You know, because in all these years, obviously I'm covering the music through all of this, you know, where people's sexualities, one day to this, one day to that, though. Let's keep it real. That's why I started to say trans real.
Okay, right.
Because
right.
people were flip-flopping, and I said, you didn't do that the other day. And you were doing this. And I said, and you hear people, and the way they talk, it's like, this is what's going to get me by. This is what people are going to relate to. This is what they're going to get. And there's a lack of sincerity, and I don't hear people speaking about things where a child can make their own decisions. A young man, a young woman can say, this is what I'm about. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a lot of trends. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And a lot of it, though, has turned into trends. And that's something I just wanted to throw that. I know it's a whole bunch. I know I threw a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm throwing this all out to you, though, because you have the ability to answer it, you know?
Right,
And in other words, give some insight, but not have to answer to it.
Right.
Because you shouldn't have to answer for the preference, the reality, the personal reality that you live. And you shouldn't have to justify it to anyone, let alone myself.
Right. Well, you know, I appreciate that, really. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because you're also the first one that ever brought this up. And, you know, I knew it was going to happen, you know what I mean, when somebody was really serious about listening to my work. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because I have people that listen to my work, you know, but I've never, you know, I'll even get questions that I'm like, you know, it's sometimes it's also like they heard things, but they like to kind of like, you know, make themselves feel okay about thinking something else, if that makes sense. Like, they'll be like, oh, well, you know, maybe she was out there wearing that pride flag or whatever, you know, on this time, you know, to, you know, be connected, to advocate for humanity, right? You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, true. You know what I mean? Yes, that's true. I don't think that people should suffer for what they choose to do behind closed doors. You know what I mean? And then, you know, I'll really get the kind of, you know, kind of verbal things, you know, I don't know, questions or just sentences, whatever, coming, you know, to me like, oh, well, you know, you say certain things, you put it out there, so then it's there, right? So that's like public now, right? And so, yeah, I can't really control, like, once I put something out there, I don't know what is going to happen. You know what I mean? And it's like, I used to be the type of artist that really thinks way too much, like a lot of us do and still do. Sometimes we think too much about like what we're writing and what other people are gonna think, you know, and things like that. And like my thing is that if you listen to my music, right, and then like you're cool with it or whatever, and then you meet me in person. What if I was like with my girlfriend or something? You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, are you like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this is who I am. Like, you know, so like I just. And my thing is like I'm a private person, you know. I don't really it's not my style to talk about those things all the time, or like, you know, just, you know, to put that out there really. But if I'm compelled to speak on it, it's almost like in defiance too. Like it's like, you know what? It's like it's like this is a part of my life. You know what I mean? You know, it does separate a lot though. Like it's separate. I get, you know, unfollows and I mean for other stuff too, but like, you know, I've gotten threats, you know, from people, you know, like I grew up Muslim like for a large part of my life. That doesn't mix. I mean, like, you know what I mean? A lot of the things I do are so controversial and it's like, but really it's not. Like I will tell you who I am. If you know me, you'll know that. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But if you wouldn't have asked me, I wasn't going to say nothing about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like what would be the point of that, you know? But like, but I'm glad you did. You know, and I think that, you know, either you like, you know, what you hearing or not, or what I'm doing out there. It doesn't mean that I think that everybody has to agree with it. That doesn't mean I'm advocating saying, oh, I think everybody should do this, or like that I don't believe that the black family is strong and you know, it's you know, we all have different ways of life, man, you know, and we can kind of like we can understand each other without being like, okay, well, I ain't fucking with you, like you do that and stuff. And also with women, it's really difficult in my experience because, and one of the reasons why I never wanted to say anything is because then you all of a sudden get to be known as like a gay rapper, which I hate that. I really do. I do not want to be known as that. That's a box of a box of a box. And I'm already in a box of a million boxes. It's like, look, no. And this is not what my hip hop is like about. That's what that's what my preference. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, you know, it does. Yeah, it's very controversial. You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy because the thing about when you talk about the boxes, what's interesting is that your music and your musical themes though really do cover the sincerity of femininity. You know what I mean? It covers the mothering nature. It covers a woman leading a family. It covers.
And that's me too. That's me too.
It covers all of that though, and it doesn't negate, you know, because when I was hearing and I was like, okay, so is she gonna, you know, because so many women do it. I was like, oh, they're gonna trash men, they're gonna do this, or they're gonna just like not really be aware of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's not in the music. In fact, the opposite is in the music. And I think also too that so many people have used lifestyles that we could say are alternative and used them and made them into such gimmicks.
Right.
That
and
now
that's
people can't live out
stand.
something and have a sincere, diverse humanity for everything.
Right. And that's another thing, man. It's like, yeah, I'm just the gimmicks. I'm just so not with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Or doing things for trends. Like we were saying, you know, we've been doing this vegan thing before the trend. Right. You know, and sometimes it annoys me. And vegan people annoy me sometimes. The way they're talking about other people and stuff. I'm like, yo, you can't, like, this is not to divide people. This is to give people knowledge and eat healthy. I'm not saying I'm better than you because you eat meat. I'm saying that, you know, look, listen, I think that, you know, I consider myself a revolutionary-minded person, so I definitely feel that what you put in your body is a part of that. I would meet so many revolutionary people who, you know, fight for a lot of things and care about a lot of things, and then, like, they'll be eating McDonald's and stuff, and it'll hurt my heart, like, literally. Like, I'll be like, oh, my God, brother, no. Like, I'll be like, listen, you can't, like, you get rid of that, man. You don't, like, nah, you know?
Right.
It's a big part that people kind of, you know, throw aside, but it matters, like, you know.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
not to deviate, but like, you know.
No. It's a great deviate, and it's something that I was gonna mention. You know what I mean? I won't say what rapper he is though, but he had a famous skit though, dismissing a certain lifestyle.
Right.
And he's my man though. He's a real legend, and revolutionary rapper too though. So that kind of narrows the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But we used to have arguments because this is before he really came out with his music, because he felt like, you know, what I was doing as a vegan and stuff was really irrelevant because people can't get that in the war-torn countries. And that wasn't my point. My point was that wherever you are, you do the best you can.
Yes, that's what I'm about. We
do
the best we can where we're at.
Right, and the best we can that I found is to have a living foods diet. You know what I mean? And it's all
because
the way
we have the ability to. I didn't always have that ability.
I think too, it's also the way that it gets expressed though, because
a
lot of people will be
delivery,
like,
man.
They don't know anything, and you go, yeah, man, I'm on that I Tell Foods thing.
Right,
and they're like, yo, that is so dope. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what vegan is, you know what I'm saying? Because it's about living foods, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because a vegan diet that is just processed and stuff, you can do that today. You
Oh,
could
yeah, and it's
live
unhealthy.
a vegan box life, you
Yeah,
know? You
it's
could
not,
live that.
It's not healthy to do.
You could have
I tell people that.
vegan cereal. You could have, you know.
There's some bad
Oh my
vegan
goodness,
food.
yeah,
Like, that's
you know what I
really
mean?
terrible for you, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like, that's
yeah,
not,
that's
you
just
know,
as bad as like anything else.
and
but
it's also
it
a
is-
big trend. And it's also a very processed food control. Oh, my God. Like, forget
Yeah,
it. Like, you
exactly,
know what I mean? It's not
exactly. You know what I mean? But, you know, I really appreciate because I'm actually the most challenging questions.
good. You are.
So I have to segue into here, what justifies the challenging questions and give an appreciation of the quality of the music. Okay? Because this is an artist that has so much that she is sharing thematically, but is one of the reasons that I really wanted to interview too immediately. And I said, why not now? Is because I feel like you're entering a prime.
I feel that.
You know what I mean?
I
You're
was thinking
entering
that.
a prime, you know? And I always say this with a lot of people, though. Like, it is very sports-minded, you know, but I'll go to a guy like, you know, you're entering a prime. And I don't feel like in music and arts, you could there are many primes, but this
Right.
is one of them. And the works that you put out this year, I thought were so far and away. And the clue that I was getting was the work that you were doing with Napoleon.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, he put me on
But
his
before
platform.
I preface to you working with Napoleon, I want to preface to one of my favorite sisters, Caridad de la Luz, La Bruja.
My sis.
I want to give some credit because I
Hell
consider La Bruja one of the crucial MCs in the early 2000s.
Absolutely.
When I say Dark Ages, she's included in that because what she was bringing out was this synthesis of spoken word and straight rhyming MCing.
Yep.
that
Because she's definitely an
made it-
MC.
Yeah, but it made it so dynamic that no record labels, no one was ready for that. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
And of course, her being light skinned, she couldn't just go as an African American, things like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in the early 2000s, like that, when she was really starting to show us this, I'm not gonna say because she's been showing it
I
the
know,
whole time.
right,
This whole
right.
time. Nobody was ready for that. They were only ready for the most cliche Latin explosion. Because I was
Right.
also a Latin explosion. And we
Right.
saw so much crap. Latinos get on, you know what I mean? Led by Ricky Martin, which was really
Right.
the worst kind of music, you know what I mean? Like
man,
nothing
yeah.
endearing, like music that you're embarrassed to show. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I used to listen to that when I was a kid. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
I know,
word
I
that
know,
was
yeah,
really- yeah.
It was stupid, but you know.
Right.
You know, like I always remember because my father would dismiss disco like that. Yeah, that's what we listen to. Yeah,
I know. It's like,
because he's a doo-wop guy and he got caught in disco. You know, and
Right.
yeah, we used to listen to that too. You know, now he don't listen to any disco. It's only doo-wop. But you know, like,
Right.
he
Right.
but it's kind of like that. But I just wanted to give. You know, let the listeners know about La Bruja because people don't know about that. She had some wonderful records and stuff like that. You know, what I mean?
Right,
My
right,
man
and-
Messiah was all over. She was on a lot of his records and one of his albums when he was doing spoken word, and she was incredible and her performances and a lot of her poems though, like about Abuelita and all this
Oh
stuff.
my
They
God,
became
man.
legendary.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, she's an excellent theater artist too, man, and
Right,
an
right.
actor. You know, and that's crazy that she came up after what we talked about because La Bruja, who I consider a great sister of
Mm-hmm.
mine now. You know, I started out just being her fan. You know, I seen her on PBS doing some poetry
Right.
when I was when I was inside, and I had a sister there that I was really cool with, Taina Guerrera. And I said, and I was like, who is that? You know, I didn't know who she was or anything. And she was like, oh, that's La Bruja. You know, she be hosting the open mics at the New Yorican and all that. And I was like, wow. I was like, when I get out, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna perform there and I'm gonna meet her. You know what I mean? And it was like years later, I got out, I went there, I performed, I met her. I bought her book, she signed it. But the first time that I actually met her was a mistake. I mean, well, nothing's a mistake. It wasn't a coincidence. I mean, you know, we were brought together because I was dressed as Frida, which I like to do sometimes. Who she loves also. I mean,
Okay.
we all love Frida, right? So like, I'm dressed as Frida, and I run into her in the city. And like, I was like, yo, La Bruja. I was like, you know, I'll introduce myself because when I was in LA, before I came back to New York, after, coming home, I was doing like compilations and kind of working the hip hop scene out there, the underground scene and stuff for probably like 3 years or something. Doing cool stuff, man. Like, meeting artists from there. And it was different for me. It really inspired me because I knew like New York stuff and vibes, and I heard West Coast music, like the stuff that everybody else heard. But I never like really spent time out there. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh wow, this is like a whole other kind of level, but this is hip hop. You know what I mean? Right, and I was like, wow. And so, I was doing this compilation. I asked her to be on it and she agreed, like not even really like knowing me that well. I told her about it, Queens of the Mic, whatever. You know what I mean? And then I would send her my mixtape or whatever. And then I ended up running into her in the street and I'm like, yo, it's me, Nejma Nefertiti and all this. She's like, what? You're dressed as Frida? Yo, ever since then, that's been my sister. And my point of going into all that is because she has shown me and I consider her a mentor as well. Mm-hmm. Because watching her has made me a greater performer. You know what I mean? Watching her do her thing, speaking to her about her journey and seeing what she does, going along with her to some of her shows mm-hmm. and like seeing the back, her inviting me mm-hmm. and putting me on and stuff. Like it helped me to not be afraid to be myself, man. Like, you know what I mean? And right. like that's what I got like kind of like chills because she would all be like, right. she'll be like, nah, sis, don't worry. Like, and like, she's like, you do your thing. You are dope. And like, beyond that, the conversations, right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said, because there are so many stylistic traits that she has that became standard. And because people didn't get to see her recorded and pushed out.
Right. She set that off, man. And she set off the La Bruja thing,
other people have played out her originations without
right.
her getting credit, though.
Right.
There's a charisma to her inflections. There's
a
twinkle to the way she punches something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
She's so skilled in so many ways.
Yeah.
And when she does something, she puts it all in that. And it's
right,
like, wow, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you do that?
This conversational brilliance that she has when she delivers. A lot of these things were copied after her, you know what I'm saying? And I just wanted to make that note. And it's crazy that she mentioned, because you have so many, you really have a mastery of punctuating what you're trying to say beyond the basic MC yell. You know what I mean? Besides the, the typical inflected yell,
right.
on the bar, and it makes a lot of sense. But then when you meet Napoleon, it's also another trait that you have too, because you're a bar for bar.
Right. And I love
rhymer,
that. That's what I come from too. Yeah. So I always love that. Like, that's like the root. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I could
filling it with words.
Yes. And I enjoy it. It's so fun. I love flipping words. I've always, my mother, may she rise in power, you know what I mean? She would, she's the first person who gave me the rhyming dictionary and stuff like that. Some people don't know about that, man. Like, I had that, you know what I mean? And I still have one, too. The Art of War, you mentioned that earlier.
Right.
My mother gave me books that challenged my mind.
That's a really powerful book
yes.
for a parent to give a child.
Yes, it is. Yeah, she gave me books that people are like, really? But, and it's interesting, too. The Donald Goines series, I think that it got to help me understand a lot of the stuff that she was involved in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when I read about, when I read that series, I thought of my mother, Dope Fiend, and stuff like that. Like, it was based in Watts and all that. But like, I somehow related to it, and this is the stuff she was giving me, like, National Geographic on top of that, like things that gave me words. And she was a poet. My mother was a poet, and she was an avid reader. So it's like that kind of like,
is the massive dexterity, because there could be so many things you can say,
right?
But by writing it, but then saying it is another story.
That's another story.
How did you work this dexterity, and like, what's the work?
To
get the dexterity
That's a great
going?
question. Yeah, because I'll write something sometimes, and I'll actually I guess recently I've been going through this process, which is a bit new in the last like year or maybe two years or something, where like when I record it, I'll edit it in that process and be like, okay, this is too much. I'm taking this out. I need a breath here. And it's almost like a construction. I mean, I like to do that when I record because it's like you're creating something.
So it's not about just saying the rhyme. Like you could say it all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not just the achievement of the saying it all. It's
Right.
also where it could use a breath and stuff like that.
Yes, or where it could use a different tone, even if it's a little bit, or like where the beat could switch up, and then maybe you even leave a little bit of room there for the beat to breathe. Because I used to, when I first started, feel the entire beat and like nothing.
G-rap
Same
school,
tone, same tone, G-rap, yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I grew up listening to him too, you know, so it's like same, you know, but I would, you know, I had to learn that. It was a practice. Like I learned to fluctuate, and I'm still doing that. Like I'm still working on that as I make music now. You know, I'm like, oh, and it's those little subtle things sometimes that are so beautiful that I hear in other music, and I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel something. Like I want to do that in my music.
There are some things that you do where, especially on the anthemic songs, you know, where like, I think it was the Mother Africa, mother, and its mother. But then there are some parts where you extend it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's your vocal tone. It's the way your pitch is reached. It kind of reminds me of a singer's melisma. You know what I mean? Because it ends up wavering.
Right.
You know, the rhythm wavers. You know, it's really a dope effect.
I think of my vocals as an instrument, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm a part of this band, the Afro Yaki Music Collective, and working with them really taught me a lot about that. And I thought of the vocals as an instrument before, but when I was rocking with horns and all this other stuff, I really understood how I am my instrument. This is my voice. This is my instrument. Right. You know what I'm saying?
And they're playing with you as an instrument.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they're expecting you to perform as one of the instruments.
It's like I'm not the main, you know, I'm not the main like person. You know what I mean? We all have a solo or something like that, but it's more like it really taught me how to kind of like play with my vocals. You know what I'm saying? And also most importantly, even rock on beats that weren't like 4/4. It really like kind of at first I was, you know, a little bit challenged, and then I was like, you know, I found like kind of like my revolutionary poetic voice there. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like almost like my I don't know, my Gil Scott heroin or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like that's what I think of. So I don't know, like, you know, and I'm inspired by things like that. So so yeah, like I just feel like, you know, if you think of your voice as an instrument, you could do so much with it. And like the more practice, it's like switch up the tones, switch up the speed. You know what I'm saying? And I could be in this.
It's so interesting because, you know, it's so dope that I'm actually on an album with you. You know
I know.
When I do songs for people, I love doing it, and and I have a couple of songs of my own. And what I love about working this process is that I'm learning it like the other way as a journalist and as a historian.
Now that's interesting.
But as a writer and a poet who basically has I corrupt everything because how I made this an element is by putting artistic poetry and prose inside of a technical piece about music.
Right.
So I have to corrupt the structure, not adhere to it.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
The structure,
right?
Yeah.
So it's a standard review about this thing, but then I'm poeticizing at points and throwing poetry. So I'm used to corrupting and having no kind of a structure.
Right.
So a lot of times in these songs, the challenge has been that the breakbeat to me, and it's so funny because I have spent my entire life writing about songs and art on breakbeats. It feels like a real box to me sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so it feels the opposite. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's UMCs really have done something amazing because you have so much freedom that you show inside of that. What I really hear is a box right now.
You're right, though. It is. It's when you think it's 4/4, right? Everything is 4/4 in hip hop usually. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, sometimes you'll find some interesting stuff.
But even the grooves that when people don't do drumless though,
right.
And people go, oh, hey, drumless and stuff. But if you really listen though, there are drums in there. There's a groove in there. There's the bass groove. It's in there.
That's the thing is that, you know, working with that band, like I would pick an instrument to rock with. Like, you know what I mean? I would be like, all right, whatever I was connecting with at the moment, sometimes it would be the guitar, the bass player.
So that's how you're finding your pocket. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like these are different things, and it's not like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, it's, it's not like that,
Right.
And so it is kind of a box, right? But also, so I agree with that, and I think it's a skill to do things outside of that. And I also think, of course, it's a skill to do all kinds of things in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I was saying, it's like,
Right.
I don't have to just do everything like this too. I could be like, I could go faster. I could be the different, measures, you know what I'm saying, inside that box or whatever. So yeah, I think it's a fascinating thing to play with once you kind of like look outside of it, but be like, okay, I'm doing this in here, but like I'm gonna do this in my way, and my voice as the instrument fluctuates.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, your work with Napoleon, started to show me so much, right? And so how is she hanging with Napoleon? Mm-hmm. So it had a lot of AZ effect.
Yeah, that's
AZ
cool.
effect
Yeah,
because Napoleon was
That's
already, I had already called and written and
Right.
historicized him as an
That's how
essential
I found
MC.
out about you, through him. I'm like, oh, who's this? Like, okay, like,
I had already historicized him that great.
right.
And then here you are, just naturally going back and forth. And then, what was it, the album, his first anime album where he produced, and you guys
Dragon
are
Ball
talking
G,
about
yeah.
legacy. And
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying about legacy, that conversation. Because
Oh man, that conversation that we
Yeah.
had, that was so real and natural. We were hanging out, man. It was before all this bullshit.
that
you know
that
what I
had
mean?
had such a Cuban Links vibe, like,
That
like-
was his idea too. He has such incredible, fascinating ideas, and we do kind of like throw ideas at each other. And it's like, he was like, "Listen, I got this idea. Let's just record and we'll just talk. It's not, it will just be casual. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And
right.
it's like that is so really how we talk. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
knowing Napoleon though, it came off really real.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
is,
why
yeah.
it came off real for you to
Right.
me, because I'm like, yo, this is stuff that Napoleon does talk about.
Right.
Like he's thinking about those things like
Yes.
that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it relates to me because when I started in hip hop, it wasn't I had no idea that you could make any kind of money as a writer and stuff, that was even a thing you do.
Right.
So every piece was just about getting some kind of props. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't about anything else. So we started to think, if I become this writer, it's how will they read me 200 years from now and things like
Right,
that. So you
right.
think about
Yeah.
those things. And after I start listening to you after that, then I hear the 2 EPs that come out early this year, and I'm like, okay, and we're coming back from this pandemic. Me and Math were striking hard on the Power Right show here.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, she's going to be on it. Because the mastery that you have on these tracks is seasoned. They sound like a 10th album. And yet, when you listen to them, though, they really sound like early declarative works. Like, hey, this is who I am, though.
Right.
So song by song, they all support a certain theme about the woman, about all women. And that's what we were
Right.
talking about before. All women are included in this, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they all become anthems. I mean, some of them they sound like they're supposed to be anthems, and then they are, like Salute the Queen, it's like
Right,
Salute.
yeah,
It's
right.
going to be an anthem. But so many are, they have so many insights, like Sacred Geometry, Ask Me Where I'm From, right? Let's just start with The Harvest is what I'm talking about, that
Right.
first work.
Yes.
I can't even say the name, but it was Shiro Fujioka, right?
Right. Voltage controller. Shiro
Voltage,
Fujioka.
right?
Yeah. Very wizard of frequency, man. His
Really-
work is crazy.
Really great beats, though.
Yeah,
They're mastered very well. They sound crisp.
Right. And
You
he
know what I
did
mean?
all that too. Yep.
It's great.
We really worked together. Like, you know what I mean? Even though he's in LA and I'm here, we've been supporting each other for a long time. And once he decided to send me beats, I sent him the work and he was surprised. He was like, damn, you about your business. People usually take a long time. And I'm like, look, I'm inspired by what you're doing, so let's do this, and that's why I love working with Napoleon. He doesn't wait or make you wait, you know what I mean, for a long time, I don't need to wait like a year for a collab or like a year to put a single out. Like, we're independent artists, man. We're not in the industry, like, you know what I mean? We create and create. You know what I'm saying? And it's important to put it out there, especially if you're feeling good about it. And I definitely was feeling good about that one. I thought it was a whole different frequency. You know what I mean? And I really had fun with it. Like, you know, writing it, recording it. It was one of the projects that, you know, and Voltage Controller, he gave me props on that. He was like, yo, like, your vocals sound great. Like, and this really makes, you're very easy to work with. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, that's a compliment to me because I've had hardships working with people before, and it's nice when it flows. You know, it's nice to challenge each other, but it's nice when but it's flowing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, and, you know, Napoleon's on that one. I mean, once we started doing work, it's like I hear him on something, I ask him, he's on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, same thing for me. He'll send me something, and I'm like, you know, and we just vibe out. You know what I'm saying? We got something special coming out too.
Yeah. I heard you mention that before.
Special.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna just say that.
And there's a great back and forth that you have too, though.
I love it.
You did your Rain Ghost with him, and it was just it was a fun record.
It's fun,
you know?
man. It's fun for real.
Yeah, and you know, he definitely inspires. I still don't know how he writes so high quality and writes so much. You know what I mean?
He writes a lot, and he puts out a lot of content. And I think that his mind is just different about time and his whole legacy, his story, the way he puts it out in his music that connects it to kind of like the anime, because you see, you know, hundreds of episodes, right? And I'm like, this is what he's doing. Like, he's like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? These are his episodes, man.
Right. Yeah, my oldest daughter, she's so into anime though, and she's like, oh, it's only 100 episodes. And,
yeah, I'm serious,
you
man.
know me, I have no binge abilities. I have zero binge abilities.
For real,
I call back. I'm like, yeah, I saw 3 episodes of Frasier, and he's like, yeah, whatever. That's like that's a binge for me. That's
For real though,
I
man.
feel like a bum after I watch 3 episodes of something.
You know, but you know, obviously, you know, it really informs his work in a lot of ways.
And Ask Me Where I'm From. There's a universality that you give to the ghetto, as opposed to just Brooklyn.
Yes.
With the places that you've been and everything, that informs some of it. But a lot of MCs don't do that when they're kicking a more revolutionary, so-called conscious idea. The ghetto is evil. It's the place you escape, the place you don't want to respect. But you give it so much reality for what you become. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of revolutionary people come from the ghetto. You know, we can't forget that. You know what I mean? And also, it's because I moved around so much, and every time I moved somewhere, it would be in the ghetto, and it's like I have that experience. You know what I'm saying? So I spoke on not even all of it. I spoke on so many places though, and tried to kind of like give this like imagery of these places that I've been and experienced and stuff. I think it's really important to look, like I was saying before. Ask Me Where I'm From, that's like the root for me, like something like that, right? You know, like, you know, that like, you know, hard hitting, talking about the streets, you know, that's what I came from in the beginning, you know, of doing hip hop and just doing this thing, you know, that doesn't, you know, just because I have a conscious mind and, you know, I believe in justice and I work for revolutionary love and like, you know, all this kind of stuff doesn't mean that I'm not that anymore all of a sudden, like, you know, and I just still love to do that kind of stuff. It's fun and also, you know, it's a part of me. Like it's who I am in a way too. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like who I am, like, oh, this defines me, but it did shape me. I wouldn't be the same if I didn't like see those places or grow up that way. I wouldn't be who I was. Who knows what I would be doing? Like, you know what I mean? Right. So it's a huge part of it. And when I heard that beat, I was like, oh man, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of times it ends up being something that is understood by artists that come out of a hell too.
Right, yeah.
Because a lot of my family, they don't like where we came from. They're like, I'll never go back there. And I'm like, man, I want to visit one day and take the kids, take a walk around Sunset. You know what I mean? Walk them through
the handball courts.
Yeah,
and like, you know, this is what I was playing right there.
I mean, and I tell them horrible shit that happened to me there, but it's like, I don't know, I got through it, so it was dope. It was dope. You know what I mean? It's like soldiering through. You know what I mean? But so many of these songs though, they're so live. There's a live essence to it though. It's at the right BPM where it seems it's not as fast as you could go, but it's very tempered and still. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really a perfect tempo that you get here and stuff. And when I talk about the themes of connecting connecting women and indigenous women, the black woman into this whole diaspora, they really come out in songs like Earth Power.
Yes.
And they come out there, and it was reminding who I was talking about off air of the great Vandana Shiva and the work that she has, because she does that, you know what I mean? And I just felt that these were anthemic, you know what I mean? And I want to say that some of them weren't, but every single song is anthemic in some type of way, you know? And it's very rare to hear a project like that. It's very intense that way. I don't think that this project could be longer than what you made it.
Yeah,
because then it was so intense. The harvest.
I've heard that. Yeah. Intense. Yeah. I'm an intense person. I really am. It comes out. But yeah, that a lot of that music actually, a lot of those lyrics and stuff, they were also influenced by my trip to Venezuela that I took. I was like among like 100 other delegates, and
that was the eco-socialist international agenda you spoke about in Sacred Geometry, right?
Yeah. And because it really like influenced my eco-socialism mind, you know what I mean? It really gave us the solutions. Remember we were talking about that. It's one thing to be like, this is what we need to do, but how do you do it though? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I can understand, people sometimes, look, when I was like, I didn't know none of this. Like I didn't know about, recycling or using like, eco-friendly things. And that's also a trend now, but it kind of needs to be, but it needs to be more of a way of life, I feel like, than a trend. You know what I mean? And being like, oh, I'm doing this or whatever. But it showed me like, wow, there's so much more like for us to do, to change us, to change each other, to kind of like, to evolve the world. Like, so that whole trip, the first Eco-Socialist International, I spent time in like 3 indigenous maroon communities, man, Afro maroon communities, with beautiful people. I mean, like, look, it was one of the times in my life, man. You know what I mean? And I didn't need for nothing. We didn't use money there. You know what I mean? Like, the whole experience. I wrote a story about it, like I think it was 12 or 13 pages that got published in Counterpunch. I wrote a little kind of short story about my experience there because it really touched my mind about just connecting to the earth, connecting to the femininity, but not only that, exuding it, and being proud of that, but that doesn't mean that you can't go hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a woman, but I could go hard too. Like, and it just kind of, it makes you feel like, we're our own, earth and universe, and you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's all connected. So that trip really kind of, and even though that trip was in 2017, I was still thinking about it. We made a whole plan of action, yo. Like, I'm going to send you the link, too, so you can look at it, because I really think that you would love to see it. But we all collectively, like, composed this, and we presented it to the state, and it's still going to all these different places, and, like, people are accepting it, and, it's just the elements, and it's broken down. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And I'll say this as, as someone who's revolutionary, who's done things that are different, who's demanded things different, I think that one of the things people forget about the revolutionary mindset that is exuded in your music is the worth of the micro reality that you live, because we exalt the revolutionary by the macro result.
Right.
And so the macro result seems impossible, but if you study the revolutionaries that are most famous and most revered, it's really the lifestyle that they live on a micro level that extends outwardly. So like when you talk about people like Che and things like that, when Che talked about revolutionary love as well as the foundation.
Yes.
Right?
Ooh, I got like chills from that.
Right?
Yeah,
and that's what he talked about. That's
Straight
what it was
up.
about. I mean, that's the quote that when I first read it, it really resonated.
Yeah.
Because I was so angry. I was like, what the hell does that have to do with this?
Right,
you know what I mean?
right. I know,
We're
I
about
get it.
going
I
out
get
there
it.
and
We're
killing
like, man,
everything. Come on,
you know
man.
what I'm saying?
And I'm being
We're like,
radicalized.
whatever about your kumbaya, you know what I mean?
Because my quest to get knowledge of self and be a teacher this long as a God, as teaching at the Law School of Mecca, is a micro reality extended. It's just multiplied by years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But
how many people have you like
But
changed?
at the same time,
you know what I mean?
it started from being radicalized to Puerto Rico, colonialism, all of these things, you know what I mean?
Yep.
being in my late teens, and I'm like, wait, who the hell is Pedro Albizu Campos? You know, I didn't know who he was.
Right.
And other white folk knew who he was, and I was like, whoa, what kind of Puerto Rican am I? You know, like
yeah, because we growing up certain ways, and we don't even know how to think like that, which is why I understand it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I get
it.
I get it.
And you know, in your works, though, like for example, Che, and in that whole revolution, they all had to carry books with them. Like I have hundreds of books in my phone. You know what I mean? I can't even carry a book. I'm so bougie. I don't even want to carry a book.
Yeah.
And I could do so much putting notes in it. But they were on the trail, and in his diaries, he would note that he wouldn't get rid of the books, and he would keep them to the end. And that's probably the last things that he had in his possession.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like he's going to continue learning. There was something he's going to learn that's going to turn the tide.
Right.
And it was read one page at a time.
Right.
I just found that profound.
That is profound.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
incredible.
this is what they're thinking. And if you didn't know how to read, you had to go learn how to read.
Right.
So here we are. We could get killed any day now. We're massively outgunned. We got to spend some time learning how to read, homie.
Right.
You know,
and
like
we got to bring these books.
I found that wild, and it turned me into an obsessive reader.
Oh man, that's
so
dope.
Turned me into an obsessive reader because I'm like, listen, if he's gonna carry them books like that,
right,
I could carry these books and carry that weight through the city.
Yep.
And in your work, there's such a focus on the micro reality, the things that we do daily.
Right, because that's what matters. Like, you know what I mean? That's really what matters at the end of the day, what we do daily. Every day is a new kind of like, chance to kind of do something, even in the littlest ways. It doesn't even matter. Like, people think that doesn't matter, but it does. Like, those little everyday way of, it's like, and it becomes a way of life. And then it's like, people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, you know what? I had to figure it out. I didn't just know this. You know what I mean? Like, it intrigued me, like, okay, wait a minute. I can make myself better, and through that, I could do better actions, and I could inspire others to do that. And it is like a web of of that whole energy, you know what I mean?
Right,
it really does matter.
Absolutely. And then to conclude, the Valley of the Queens EP, right?
Right.
Produced by Muhammad, man, like with another great selections.
Yes.
I don't know where you're finding this gold from,
Muhammad
you know what I mean?
Malek, man. Oh my God, from Egypt. Yep.
Great beats, you know what I mean? Like, I was hearing all the beats though, and I was like, yo, these fucking fire beats, you know what I mean?
Oh my God.
You pick like the thickest beats. I love the snares. There's a lot of crowding he does. Like, it fills the room nicely.
It does.
A lot of this EP talked about the exploitation of women, though, the cliches of women as MCs, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It had like a poignant battle rap message. You know what I mean?
Right.
If we could say that. And I guess it starts out, I got to salute because you shout around Valley of the Queens. Peace to Merce, the Big Body Benz.
Oh, yes, Merce.
If you don't love Merce, the Big Body Benz.
She had to tell me how to say her name.
Merce,
I thought it was Merc, like she murking people.
No,
and she's everybody thinks that, sis. No, she does. I met her once. No, actually, I didn't even meet her at that show. I was performing somewhere with Napoleon, and she went on. I was like, what the? I was like, yo. And like, I was like, listen. Man. I was like, yes, that energy.
She is so dope. You know what I mean? Man. She's so dope. And it's funny because I interviewed her right before she was hitting that prime too.
Wow. Yeah.
And salute to her with her new babies and everything.
I know. She
be
doing her damn thing, man.
You know what I mean?
Doing them affirmations too. I love it.
Yeah, she's just a builder. She's just a builder. She challenges
very raw,
viewpoints.
Powerful.
Yeah. Woo. Everything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everything. And what I love about Merce the Big Body Benz is that, when people talk about things for female MCs, there is no, we're going to get our break, not like that. Right. You will get fucked up, get the fuck out the way, and everything like that. You know what I mean? And,
right.
She's really the Big Body Benz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. She ain't playing.
But I found the Valley of the Queens EP to be like your stylistics LP.
Okay, yeah.
There are a lot of shifts. There are a lot of changes. There are more musical challenges. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mary Magdalene, the bluesy guitar licks. I love the ideas there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also saw it though, because I see this a lot of times. So I look at things in a guru lens because he's one of my heroes. This was no like doubt. A lot of these songs were like these are my ethos and principles. Like the guru's Guru Manifesto points. You know what I mean?
Yes, the manifesto.
And I saw pasta sauce as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I saw
that's
that.
a fun one,
It was
man.
real clever to make.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? And I had this one idea, because it's something that I speak about negatively. Most people speak about positively. You know what I mean? But you insinuated, like, when you said yearning for the American dream, like if that was a diss. And a lot of people don't do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like it's a thing that we all are going for.
Because we're supposed to be.
Right, because that's the mentality of people who grow up like us. You know what I mean? We always got to make it, and we're going to make it out, and this is the dream. And, we see people, in the industry talking about this. And, it's like, yeah, I just said to myself, fuck the American dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, whatever, man, And I talked some shit, you know what I mean? But,
Indeed,
that's where it was coming from,
It's funny because we tend to respect the profits of our labor more than the quality of the labor itself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And in this case, the quality of the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll accept people that, they did their thing though.
Right,
like,
yeah,
we're talking
yeah.
about that they made money, not that they really
Right,
did
right,
their
right.
thing. They
Yeah,
did
I
it.
mean,
You know what I mean?
Of course, like, we all need to eat and we need money to live and all that. But like, that's not my, I have so much more to talk about. And like, I can't be that kind of artist. It's just not me. You know what I'm saying? It's not what I'm going for. But yeah, man, like, he sent me those beats and I heard a project in it. First, he sent me the joint that is actually the Valley of the Queens, the single.
Okay.
When he sent me that, I was like, it was like, dun, 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 dun. I was like, what? This is so cinematic too. Like, I'm like, this is, I was like, this is dope, And I met him on a group on Facebook called Arab Hip Hop that Napoleon the Legend said to me, I think you should get on that. You should join that group. And I thought to myself, I don't know.
That's a very Napoleon thing.
Yeah, he will. Yeah. And look, going back to what we were talking about before, I second guessed this, right? And I said, I thought to myself, I said, okay, and I'm thinking about what he said. I said, I don't know if I should join that group. I'm probably too controversial. I can't probably be myself. You know what I mean? I don't need that kind of energy and stuff. And I was like, you know what? But this is also my culture and that part of the world even, you know what I'm saying, is my culture. Like, so it's like, okay. And so I did it. And that's where I had the interview with Ghetto Queen and stuff from Egypt. That's where I met Mohammed Malek.
That's great.
That's where I met my engineer who engineered the whole project, the Valley of the Queens, Mr. Buddha, young Egyptian brother who does great, beautiful engineering work. And that's my guy now for that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's how I met them. And I almost didn't do it because I was like, maybe I'm too controversial. Maybe I'm
right.
And it's just like, yo.
But sometimes the energies that you might receive keep you from a cipher because it really does happen. It's a pain in the ass.
It does. It is. And it has. And it probably will. And like, but you know what? I feel like as long as I'm being me and I'm being real about that, because like I said, when people meet me, I can't all of a sudden try being someone else and then like, you know what I'm saying? It's weird. Like, it's like, look, this is who I am, But again, I'm a very private person. So people out there, they don't know these things about me unless they ask. They only know what they know from my music because I don't know you. We don't talk. Like, you follow me. Maybe I follow you back or maybe I don't. But, like, people who really know me. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, but yeah, man, I almost didn't do that. And I'm so glad that, because we second guess ourselves a lot. And I think that's where the comfortability thing is. And I like to push that boundary for myself and be like, you know what? Like, it's now or never. Like, what is going to keep me from doing this? Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to be into what you're doing. Maybe they could still respect you. Maybe they can't. If you can't, then that's cool, man. We don't gotta like, you know what I mean? It's all good. Like, and I don't have to hate you though, like, or something like, it gets a little bit like, yo, everybody got different values and practices and all that, you know what I mean? But that is what led me to all of this and to Chop Herring, putting it on this vinyl, which is my first vinyl.
Right.
I mean,
a real success.
I mean, a real milestone because they in 20 years have had women features, but never the main act. And I just almost didn't even send them my work.
Wow.
I almost didn't send it because I seen that, I learned about them from Napoleon, right? And I said, yo, I got this project. I think this is the one for them, right? And he's like, send it, do it yourself. You don't need a middleman. You know what I'm saying? He's like, do that, get at him. So I got at Bob, and like, I'm like, yo, I got something for you to listen to. What you think? Can I send something? Mm-hmm. And he was like, he gave me the impression like, I'm always down to listen, respectful and everything. But like, it sounded like he was just so busy and booked up for the rest of the year. And I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't even send this. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I thought something said, do it, do it, do it. And I sent it, and he got at me. He was like, here's what we could do. I was like, whoa, like, I was like, right. Yeah.
And now, for those watching, this is where we get this beautiful vinyl, Valley of the Queens. I got my own now.
Yes.
And it's a great record. And Pasta Sauce is what I was talking about. The listener listens to it again. Especially by the end of the song, you're hearing the speed tempos variegated beautifully throughout the end. You know what I mean? And that's what I was talking about as a good example of the kind of flips that you do. And so many of these songs, like, I feel that with these 2 EPs, though, you've declared yourself, right? But it's really, you're in Jimmy Castor right now. You've just begun.
Right.
Because there is so much that we've talked about. There's so much that you have as for actual song making that is barely scratched the surface that I really, really look forward to.
Me too.
And I know that it's going to be great.
Thank you.
I know it's going to be great, and I won't, I just know.
Well, my next project is Jane Wayne, the Villain. That's going to be coming out soon.
Okay.
That's going to be on vinyl, too. I got the vinyl fever now. I don't know what happened, but it's like I can't go back. I'm like, it's like hip-hop, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I agree with you on that it was my thing where I'm like, okay, this is who I am. Because like I was telling you before, there's been so much struggle and things prohibiting me kind of like from creating the way I would want to and to put things out and stuff. So people, you know what I mean? And I've moved around so much, so I never got to really establish, people know me, in Cali and stuff, but like then I left. Then I went to Atlanta and I was doing, and then I left. And now I'm back in New York and I'm like, okay, I'm home. I'm staying here. I need to really this is my time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's really, I agree with you on that. And so I'm really having fun creating, beyond what I've done now, and just like, I'm just looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Nejma Nefertiti, it has been an honor to build with you.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
There's so much I'm excited about with your work. If you go to nejmanefertiti.bandcamp.com, all the money you did not spend on me, spend it on her, and spend it on her first, though.
Thank you.
This is great work. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much.
Even your own Bandcamp is such a wonderful story. Because if you go to the bottom of your Bandcamp and listen to each song and go back up, you can hear a whole story of a woman's struggle and the way your talent just develops inch by inch.
Yeah, like we were talking about.
It's a beautiful growth chart.
Right.
Your Bandcamp.
The journey. And how we A&R and develop ourselves.
When I was, sometimes constructing the interview says so much, though, just listening to the music. And there's so much that you did in all of these. There's so much sincerity. There's so much songwriting. And it hits certain peaks where we know they're going to, like the song for your mother.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's peaks and they continue to rise and rise. And this is the beginning of your peak, though. I'm so honored to build with you before everybody else gets on the bandwagon. But I made this wagon.
Yeah, right. I know.
You can ride it. I will pull it for everyone.
Listen, I will always appreciate you for this because you've asked me things that no one has asked me, and I'm like, I was thinking to myself, when is someone gonna ask me these things? Like, and I'm like, okay, this is the time. I'm like, so I'm honored too, for real.
It's so much, such great music, inspiring music. It's insightful music. It's challenging music, but it's also fun to listen to. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's really a lot of fun. So go to Nejma Nefertiti. On the Bandcamp, go to Nejma Nefertiti, all the same on the IG. Let her know what you think.
All the same.
Watch
everywhere.
all of those 21 bars because they're all incredible. They're fun. They're dynamic, and the charisma's flowing. So for Nejma Nefertiti, I'm Sunni Azala. Until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce.
Woo.
Again, I'm your host, Sunya Zala, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low. And as always, The Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.